It's New Jersey, and wait, I'm not quite sure where Zach is today, but this is news that you can use from YAA with your hosts, Zach and Ray Shefska. Canada?
Pops, I think someone's at the door. Can you let him in?
Absolutely. Oh, my.
We've got ourselves Cherie Primac of Car Help Center. Cherie, thanks for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both for the invite.
Yeah. Dad, isn't this great? We're getting someone from the Canadian market who is an advocate for the consumer up in Canada, going to help us learn about what's going on up there. Aren't you excited about this?
I couldn't be more excited. I only wish it was like a little later in the year we could drop a hockey puck to make him feel. I'm sorry, I'll be good now. But yeah, I think it's great that I mean we have a rather large audience in Canada, and I think it's great that we can have some folks on from Canada help us understand the market up there and how it relates to the car market down here.
And Dad, why don't we kick off with that? And Sherry, I just popped your channel in the chat here, so everyone that wants to check out his channel, please go do it. Car Help Center. Dad, kick us off here, though. What are we trying to learn today with Sherry?
Well, exactly that. Tell us what the hell's going on with the car market in Canada? Is it as crazy there as it is here as far as shortages are concerned?
Yeah, I have to say for the most part, there's a lot of parallels in Canada. The shortage is just as bad as ever, particularly with brand new cars, especially the more popular models like hybrids, any kind of electrified variants, especially with gas prices now. You have to wait upwards of a year, even longer for certain models. And as it's the case in the States, it's driven up the prices of cars. New cars are more expensive than ever. Used car prices have gone up 30–40% over the past several months. And there's no signs of things letting up anytime soon. It's quite a market.
Can I ask a silly question, if I may? Because you mentioned hybrids and things of that nature. What type of incentives does the Canadian government offer to its citizens to start utilizing more electrified vehicles in Canada?
Great question. Yeah, there's no incentives for hybrids, but there is for plug-in hybrids and full EVs. So on the federal level, there's a $5,000 rebate. And on the provincial level, provinces of Quebec and British Columbia have $3,000 and $7,000 incentives. So it depends on where you live.
Wow. So there's some major assistance there in some provinces.
Major, yeah. And that's exactly why there's a tremendous shortage. I mean, I can't think of a single EV plug-in hybrid variant that you can get in less than 8 months here, anywhere in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Dad, this reminds me of when we talked to Marcello, who is at a Toyota dealership in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Dad?
I think he's in that area with Toyota World.
He's in the Toyota World. Yep. That's his YouTube channel. So, but I bring him up, Sherry, because he shared with us that there are some Toyotas that you're going to have to wait potentially even 2 years to get your hands on, like some of the prime models and things like that. But we've discussed with him in the past, and Sean brought it up here. Dealerships can't mark up new cars above MSRP in Canada. Let's talk a little bit about this. Can they? Can they not? What's going on price-wise in the Canadian market?
Right. So technically, dealerships have the ability to mark up cars. However, we do have rules and regulations around that. Dealerships are required to comply with all-in price advertising in many provinces, like here in Ontario. So the price that they advertise on their website must include everything, all fees, charges, markups, junk fees, whatever it is, except for your sales tax and licensing. However, because of the shortage, dealerships are not advertising cars anymore. They don't put their cars online or the prices online. So they do have the ability to charge almost anything they want. They can tack on a market adjustment fee if they choose to. It's very rare in Canada because most Canadian consumers wouldn't pay for it, but they do technically have the ability. What we're seeing more than market adjustment fees are the addition of different types of add-ons. Sometimes it's invented fees that never existed before, fees with value or no value, or just add-on products, adding things like anti-theft protection, extended warranty, rust proofing, etching, nitrogen, all these things that obviously exist in the States. Very, very common in Canada to have all these add-ons built into the price.
Wow.
Uh,
What's the just out of curiosity? What's the tax rate in like Ontario?
In Ontario, it's 13% sales tax. Some
Excuse me?
provinces,
Did you say 13%?
13% sales tax in Ontario. Some provinces are 15. The lowest is Alberta, which is 5%.
Oh my God! So why aren't all Canadians moving to Alberta?
Pretty loaded question. A lot of reasons why, but yeah, I mean, in terms of car buying, the prices there are definitely the most attractive. But the shortage is very bad there too. It seems to be less severe in Ontario, where we have a much larger population, a lot more dealers, especially in a city like Toronto. I mean, the number of dealers in Toronto is just tremendous. I mean, we probably have 15 Honda dealers in the city alone. So because there's so much volume, dealers here get a lot more allocation, and it's easier to shop for a car.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sherry, I'm curious. Talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, Car Help Corner. Like, what is a day in your life? I don't want to get it wrong, but you're helping the Canadian consumer get a fair deal on a car right now. So obviously, you've got a lot of on the ground experience from helping people. But like, share a day in your life and share a little bit about the channel.
Yeah. So the channel Car Help Corner originated from our organization, Car Help Canada, which is a nonprofit organization. We help Canadians who are in the market to buy a car and help them achieve the best financial outcomes. So we give them professional advice, just as you guys do. Sometimes we can connect them with a reputable dealer that will give them a fair deal. Any kind of car buying advice they need, that's what Car Help Canada is for. And we've always been doing consumer advocacy. We even lobby the government for expanding consumer rights in the auto industry. And the channel is just an extension of that, giving good advice, comparing different cars, which to buy, which to stay away from, and a few car reviews in there too.
Can
That's really
I ask?
fun.
It sounds fun, but I need to ask a silly question. It's not really a silly question, but with car prices being what they are in Canada, and with taxes being as high as they are in Canada, I know in the United States, for the average car payment for a new car in the United States today is somewhere around $735 a month, for about a 72-month term, a 6-year term. What does an average car payment look like in Canada?
It's very similar. The average selling price of a car in Canada is in the $40,000 ballpark, and 72-month, 84-month loans are very common here too. And unfortunately, there's a fair amount of subprime in Canada too on the used car market. So it's a very similar situation. However, like I said, we don't have the market adjustment fees. We don't have the markups. So it's much easier to buy a car for MSRP here, even for a really high demand car like a hybrid or plug-in hybrid, or even a brand new Ford Lightning. I mean, it's not too hard to find one at MSRP. The problem is finding a dealer that's not going to tack on a lot of unnecessary junk and add-ons. That's the major issue.
I
Interesting.
want to switch gears for a second because, Dad, we have done this maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred times on this show over on the YAA channel. We have pulled up, Sherry, we have pulled up this screen, but never have we pulled it up for the Canadian version. Today feels like the time to spring it on you both. Our friends over at Black Book, they measure used car prices and what's happening in the used car market. And Sherry, they have a Canadian arm that we have never referenced on any of our shows or videos. On the new car side, okay, going to be difficult, but you can find cars at MSRP. What about used cars? And just for kind of like to pressure test what we're about to share, it's interesting. Looking at Canadian Black Book, we've seen prices, it looks like, decline a little bit on the wholesale market over the past few months. Definitely doesn't look as volatile as what we've seen here in the United States. But what are you seeing in terms of used cars in Canadian Black Book? Thank you for giving us the data.
Yeah, I get those exact same emails from Canadian Black Book. Yeah, we're not seeing much of a drop on the used car market quite yet. The the shortage is still very bad for used cars. It's very difficult to find a high quality used car at a reasonable price because of the shortage. And honestly, a lot of used cars just don't make any sense to buy. I mean, a lot of 2-3-year-old used cars are almost the same as just buying a brand new car at MSRP. So why would you buy the used one? That's been the case for several months, and it continues to be the case. So we're not seeing the prices coming down yet. But like I said, a lot of Canadians are in serious debt. We have a lot of subprime. We have a lot of extended car loans. So we could be seeing a correction like the US, but I imagine it's going to come a little bit later.
Very
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've got another question with regards to inventory levels and what you're seeing from your perspective. Here in the United States, we've seen brands like Stellantis do surprisingly well in terms of keeping their dealers stocked. And we see a lot of folks here getting deals 10, 12% below MSRP on Ram 1500s, for example. And on the other end of the spectrum, you mentioned the Ford Lightning. Here in the United States, you cannot get a Ford Lightning at MSRP. It's going to be MSRP plus some ridiculous market adjustment. And both of you, stay tuned. I've got a great, really, you've got to be kidding me, $100,000 Nissan. You're not going to believe it. I wanted, though, get a little bit of insight from you about inventory levels for certain brands in the Canadian market. Are there some, like we know Toyota from talking to Marcello, there are no Toyotas in the country, but are other brands like Stellantis, like can you go find a Ram pickup truck on a dealer's lot?
Yeah, a lot of the domestic car makers like Stellantis, Ford, the inventory seems to be improving a little bit. Certainly for Stellantis, you're right about that. It seems to be more a problem for the Asian manufacturers, Toyota, Honda, Subaru. They're all quite bad, which is interesting because a lot of them are manufactured in Canada. I mean, right around the Greater Toronto area, we have the Honda plant in Alliston, we have the Toyota plant in Cambridge. Like they're all pretty local, but yet it's very, very difficult to buy the cars they're manufacturing. A lot of them are exported, of course. Most of those cars go to the US and other markets, but definitely domestic car brands inventory is much better than the Asian brands.
Wow. Sounds
Yeah,
like
we've been seeing the same thing.
It just sounds like the USA with an A on the end.
Well, there are some major differences. I mean, yes, we don't have the markups. It's easier to buy a car for a fair price on the new car market. But on the flip side, consumer protection can be a little bit weak in other areas. Like, for example, we don't have lemon laws in Canada like you have in the US. So, in my opinion, the US is stronger with consumer protection in the auto industry in some areas than Canada.
Wow, but at least I'm assuming that the provinces and the federal government up there really ensures that dealers, if they advertise a car, that they have to sell it at that price. Or I think they probably do more of that in your country than they do in the U.S.
Well, the issue is that we have regulators in each province. We have delegated authorities that are responsible for enforcing the regulations. However, the enforcement piece is sometimes what's missing. They're not very good at enforcing the rules that exist. And I think that's a problem in the US too. So even though dealers are supposed to advertise an all-in price, a lot of them are not doing it and getting away with it.
Gotcha.
Can we like back up just like 30 seconds? There is not a lemon law in Canada?
No, we don't have any lemon law comparable to what's in the US, which is a huge problem. So when a consumer buys a car and they have ongoing problems with it, it's a major battle having it addressed. We have an arbitration program called CANVAP, which is somewhat a similar idea, but it's nowhere near as good or comprehensive as a proper lemon law.
Wow.
I'm thinking of Josh. I'm thinking of Josh right now. And obviously he ended up, his car's not a lemon, but pretty close. And to just imagine that you're stuck with a piece of junk. I mean, I understand if you're buying a used car as is, but buying a brand new car, what about warranties? I mean, manufacturer warranties operate similarly in Canada. We have the Magnuson-Moss law here in the United States, which, says an OEM has to provide a warranty on any manufactured good. I mean, I'd imagine the warranties in Canada are the same, right? Or are they different?
For the most part, they're the same, but some of them are not quite as long. Like, for example, Hyundai and Kia have a 10-year powertrain warranty in the US. In Canada, it's a 5-year comprehensive and 5-year powertrain. And I think the reason for that is because Canada has a harsher climate, more severe weather. So they're not going to be able to honor the same length of warranty coverage for certain car brands.
Wow. Damn. What other? I didn't realize there were these differences. I just kind of assumed it was exactly the same, but maybe on a smaller scale.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Canada and the United States share a border. Canadians come into the United States all the time. U.S. citizens drive into Canada all the time. If a U.S. citizen drove their Honda that they bought in Ohio and they drove up to Toronto for a weekend and their Honda broke down while they were in Toronto, would a Honda dealer in Toronto be able to honor the U.S. warranty on a U.S. Honda that needed repairs?
Most manufacturers will, but not all. I know there are some manufacturers that don't honor the warranty across the border. I don't know which ones exactly, but definitely not all.
Wow. That could make life really difficult, or the tow bill really big.
Yeah.
To tow a car from Canada back to the States to get warranty work done.
Yeah, absolutely. And cars get exported all the time. I mean, for some cars, the shortage is much worse in the US. You have a much larger market than we do. So we're seeing a lot of cars, especially used cars, being shipped over the border. It happens pretty often.
We've seen a considerable amount of that.
How does Canada look at importing cars from the United States? Do they charge an extra duty on things like that, or?
Yeah, there's a duty, and there's other administrative bureaucratic fees you have to pay. It's a bit of a process, but doable. It's very rare to do it in this market, but you're not really going to be saving any money buying a car in the U.S. because from what I've seen, the prices there are even higher than Canada because, like I said, you have a much larger market than we do.
Man,
Jerry, I want to ask you to look in your crystal ball for us. What is the expectation that you and your team have for the remainder of this year and going into especially 2023 for new car prices, used car prices? What have you heard? Are things going to get better? Do you think they're going to get worse? What's your expectation?
Yeah, consumers are asking me that every single day. Should I put off buying a car? Should I wait until later this year or next year? And I tell them I don't see any change for the remainder of 2022. I think it's going to be like this for at least this year, probably late into next year in terms of the shortage, the price of cars, at least when it comes to the new car market. I can see used cars dropping a bit, especially the cars that use a lot of gas because gas prices are very high, inflation. So we're already seeing the SUVs, trucks coming down a little bit. But for regular, popular mainstream cars, hybrids, I don't see any change anytime soon, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah. We're seeing some weakening and softening on the used car side here in the United States. But until someone tells us like, hey, the music's back on for new car production, it's going to be hard to see things return to quote normal or what inventory levels will ever be in the future. Again, if they will ever return to normal, I imagine, and this is from talking to Marcello and others, 2018, 2017, you could go to the lot and you could buy a car. Obviously, now that's not the case for new vehicles. It wasn't like going to Canada was like going over to, Spain where you do a factory order. Because in Europe, that's very normal. But in Canada, it was just like it was here. You'd go to the dealership, you'd find the vehicle you want, you could leave. You're not seeing that coming back to reality next year.
No, I mean, it's going to happen for some brands. And frankly, I don't think a lot of dealers want that to come back because they like the way things are now. A lot of dealers here are making just as much money, if not more money than before, because their margins per unit are higher. They don't have to give discounts. There's no rebates or manufacturer incentives. And like I said, they're piling on add-ons and junk fees on top of the MSRP. So a lot of them are making more money than ever before. So, and the job in some ways is easier for them. They don't have to, there's no hard sell. I mean, the ball is in their court. They have all the power. And unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of dealers that are even exploiting consumers, taking advantage of the shortage. I've seen them holding them hostage in some cases where they sign a deal, a contract at a price. The consumer is waiting 4 or 5 months for their car to arrive. And just before it arrives, they tell them, hey, we're not going to give you the car unless you now pay for this and this and this, unless you finance, you can't pay cash. And if you don't like it, we're canceling your deal.
Wow. And there's nothing the consumer can do.
Not unless they want to wait another 5 months and order all over again. But not a lot of dealers are doing that. But I am seeing some unprofessional dealers that are definitely taking advantage and unfortunately exploiting consumers.
I'm officially doing it, guys. We're changing the background. No longer going to be the Canadian flag because of the news that I just heard there. I'm no longer.
Yeah, well, you know, in some ways, I prefer the U.S. market adjustment fees because at least the dealers are being honest about what they're doing. We're trying to make extra money, whereas in Canada, we're hiding that behind, you know, fees and add-ons that really offer zero value.
Don't sweat it, Sherry. We're doing the same thing here in the States. It's very. I'm actually like, it's very sobering hearing what you're sharing with us because I've had this misconceived notion that, oh, you know, in Canada everyone's so happy and profits don't rule the world and they're selling cars that no, they're not. Yeah, it's unfortunate to realize.
It's actually worse in the States. And here's the reason why it's worse in the States. Not only are the dealers adding market adjustments, but on top of the market adjustments, they're adding all the crap on top of that. So in essence, a lot of the dealers are double dipping, where in Canada, it's a single dip. It's only all the crap that the dealer can add. And here it's all the crap that a dealer can add plus a market adjustment.
Sherry, do you have a minute or two? Because I can show you an example here.
Sure.
All right,
Let's
ready,
see it.
guys?
Really? You gotta be kidding me.
Okay, so this was sent in to me by a follower over on Instagram. So Jeff Weiler, which is a dealership group, and I think this is in New Jersey, but don't hold me to that. I honestly, I forget. We've got the new 2023 Nissan Z, okay, and they don't even have it in yet, but they've advertised it for sale on their website. $54,015. That's the MSRP. Do we have any guesses, folks? Sherry, Pops, what this car actually is selling for once you reach out and contact the dealer?
Well, you mentioned the Nissan for over $100,000. I was thinking perhaps it was the original 240Z, the first one that they ever. It's not that.
Nope.
I mean, I've seen a lot of things, so I'm just gonna throw, I don't know, 20 grand.
Hate to break it to you guys, but let's jump into the text messages. So we've got the customer here, and again, this was screenshot sent in. Sounds good, and the price is $54,000. Yes, it is $54,015. The internet price. Hey Dustin, this is Holly with Jeff Weiler Nissan, and I am the internet manager here. I saw that you have briefly spoken with Beverly, and I wanted to go ahead and let you know that there will be a $50,000 markup on this vehicle since there are only going to be 240 made. Let's just break this down. First and foremost, there are not 240 Nissan Zs being made. That is complete BS. And a $50,000 doubling the price of the vehicle the moment you reach out to them. This is the type of stuff that happens. And this customer didn't go and get a buyer's order and see what it actually is. Wouldn't be surprised if you have to get the extended warranty on that as well. Wouldn't be surprised if you're also paying for paint protection. This is the type of crap that we're seeing. $104,000 without taxes, without fees for a Nissan.
Yeah, that's unreal. I have to admit that would not happen in Canada. No consumer would even contemplate paying that kind of money. But I really hope nobody pays it.
My guess is somebody will. Somebody will decide that they just have to have that vehicle, and they will pay close to that to get it, so that they can say, "Look, I got one." And maybe of this particular model of Z, I don't know. Maybe there'll only be 240. I don't know, but just so they can say that they have it. But
No.
it's crazy.
The answer is no, Dad. This is bad. Okay. But there you go, Sherry. That's the juxtaposition of how dealers here in the States do it versus, I guess, dealers in Canada. $50,000 markup. Just let me send you a quick text message and let you know the price you thought you were going to pay that you got confirmed with a different person on our staff. Let me let you know that it's actually going to be 2x what you thought it was. Pretty wild.
Yeah, and I have helped. I have had clients from the U.S. who've signed up, and I've personally helped them broker deals with local dealerships. And yeah, I know it's a nightmare. A lot of them just don't give you accurate, transparent information. You really got to pry them for a proper quote. with an itemized price breakdown. And even then, who knows if they're gonna mark it up on you in the end when you finally sign. So it's not easy. There's no question about it. And after doing a few deals there, I was happy to go back to a few Canadians. Much easier.
For sure. Well, Sherry, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, his channel, Car Help Corner, if you just search YouTube for that or search Google, and also Car Help Canada. We get so many folks asking us, Zach, where can we get support? We're up in Canada. Where can we get help? Go look at Car Help Canada. Also, and Sherry, you're invited on our community forum. We do have a Canada sub channel, so feel free to join us there for those that are in Canada and want to get some help. But Sherry, thanks so much for being here with us. We really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thanks, guys. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. It really sheds some light on the differences between how cars are sold here and how cars are sold in Canada. Even though it's a similar process, it seems to be a little bit fairer in Canada.
Just a bit.
A tad.
See you, Sherry. Thanks so much.
Thanks again.
That was pretty good, Dad. That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So they stopped advertising, dealers stop advertising cars online altogether, so that they don't have to honor the price that they advertise it for.
Let's talk about this a little bit, and also Sean's got a good idea, and it's Sherry Shari, but still should get his dad, and they could have their own channel. That's a good idea. I wonder where we're getting that idea. But Dad, let's talk about this for a minute, because the FTC has these proposed rules, and who knows if they'll actually be able to enforce them. We know we'll be talking about them. We'll be trying to enforce them. We'll be Monday morning quarterbacking it here on the show. But Dad, what happens if you put these rules in place and then ultimately what the dealers do is they just stop advertising prices altogether? You show up and you get a totally different experience. It's almost like Sherry just illuminated, hey, this is likely what will happen in the United States if you move in that direction.
The dealers will stop advertising the cars online. So dealers will always find a way around whatever rules and regulations are in place. It's just what dealers do. They're always looking for a loophole, a technicality somewhere where they can do what they want to do, and hopefully, the FTC and local and federal and state governments can combat it to the point where people just don't feel like they're always being taken advantage of.
Thank you, Talon. The rule said if you list a vehicle, you have to show the price unless you don't list a vehicle at all. Thank you. Didn't realize that. That is fantastic. I hear you loud and clear, Dad. Capitalism is a strange drug, and however you can find ways to make money, they're going to figure out how to do it. It does seem like capitalism in Canada is a little bit nicer, a little bit kinder. Sherry hasn't seen anyone do $50,000 doubling, vehicle prices via text message, so that's reassuring. But it is, it's definitely a challenge not only here in the United States, but in all of the globe, but in North America especially. It'll be interesting, Dad. I know we didn't get a chance to talk to Sherry about it, but maybe in the future we will. The new EV tax incentives here in the United States, a lot of them have to do with if the EV is produced in the United States, of course, but also if things are produced in Canada. So we're getting an even stronger relationship with our neighbor to the north. I wonder what that'll do just in general for like production, manufacturing. Wouldn't be surprised if we see even more of that, a tighter bond between the United States and Canada. Perhaps.
I was fascinated by the fact that for instance, in British Columbia, the province rebate or incentive for buying an electric vehicle is even greater than the federal effort. It's a $5,000 federal effort and a $7,000. I mean, that's $12,000. Because the province is willing to give consumers more to convert over to electric vehicles, and British Columbia. I mean, the major city in British Columbia is Vancouver, and so I guess you're going to see a lot of EVs if you go up to Vancouver.
Yeah,
which we should do
really
sometime,
will.
By the way. Yeah.
One of these days, Dad. One of these days. All right, Pops, let's call it a show for today. We'll be back tomorrow, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. No guests tomorrow, so just us. Tune in for us.
Okay. I plan on being here, and hopefully you do as well.
Indeed, Dad. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again to Sherry, and catch you all tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you back here again tomorrow.